Okay, we're recording. Hello. Hey, Tony, what's up?
Hey, how you doing?
Hello. Hello, everybody listening. This is Tony Wynn. We could talk more about your name, give a little intro about yourself, but we've come to know each other through InterVarsity, doing leadership this past year and into the 2021 school year. Yeah, we're talking today a little bit about uh, Tony's story, how he came to America, his family uh, came, about his coming to faith, um, and everything in between. Yeah, so tell us a little about yourself, Tony.
Yeah, so my name is Tony. My real name is Vidon Nguyen. That's my Vietnamese name. The reason why I got Tony was because I was born in England. I was born in London actually, and Tony was my name on my birth certificate. So yeah, so whenever I moved to America, the school that I moved to, like they needed a new like name. So because there was like my brother's also on Nguyen, so it was like the same. So they want us to have like a different name so they can like call each other. And so I chose Tony. So I went by Tony since then. And yeah, so I'm Vietnamese. Came to America about 7 years ago in 2013, and I am currently going into 20 fall 2020 a sophomore in civil engineering.
Nice, nice. Cool. Yeah, so 7 years you've been here. We've been talking about immigration stories, so real curious about yours. Yeah, so how did you and your family decide to move over here, and how has that journey been?
So pretty much, so to sort of some background info. So kind of in Vietnam back then, America was seen like as like this great country, like great nation. Like that's where you want to send your kids to go study. And my parents, they always have like a goal of sending their kids to go study abroad, like in any country. Like we have ideas like Australia, England even, and America was of course one of the top choice. And my dad was very lucky to be blessed with a job opportunity to work in the U.S. So he brought his entire family over with him while he was taking this job in the U.S. So we could, experience the culture and just, live in the U.S., live abroad. So yeah, so that's the beginning of how we started to moving to America. And after about 3 years, my dad finished his job here in America, and we all planned to move back to Vietnam. That's where we're from. That's our home. But my sister and I, we have different ideas. We wanted to stay here in the United States to finish our education because we think that's something that is valuable and something that we have grown accustomed to. The education in the United States. So we asked our parent if we could stay. And my little brother also at the time, he was in sixth grade, which is pretty young age. He also wanted to stay and he doesn't want to move
Hmm.
back to Vietnam. So yeah,
Right.
so my
So how
parents,
old were all of y'all when y'all made that decision?
my sister, she was actually in her third year of college. I was finishing my freshman year in high school, so I was 16. I don't know the math. I don't remember. But my brother, he was just finishing sixth grade. Um, so we were pretty young. Yeah. It was pretty difficult decision, to decide to just stay in the U.S. and not go back home with our parents. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So how? did y'all like take care of yourselves? Like, did you stay with anybody? Was your sister like the adult caretaker? Yeah.
Yeah, so my sister, well, we are pretty like independent the way that our parent, raise us. They want us to make sure that, like you got to be able to take care of yourself, right? So during the 3 years that we stay with our parents, we learn a lot from them, and my parents make sure that we have a foundation that we have. But we are also very lucky to have a host family that taken us in, and I don't even call them host family. I just call them family because they're what they are to us. They're very kind. They take care of us like their own grandchildren, and so it was very nice that we were very blessed to have found like a family who just take us in and um just provide a place for us to stay and even give us the guidance, like trying to groom us as a
Hmm.
human being and everything. So it was a very nice experience. So
Awesome. Yeah, yeah. So, are you still living with them now, or you got your own place?
we moved out and got our own place after I graduated high school. Because we are more independent then, and we needed to move to be closer to the school that we were attending, closer to U of H for
Mm,
me. So yeah, but we still keep in touch with them, especially during this COVID-19 pandemic. Um, we still visit them from time to time when we can, and just because we are basically like family now. So that's something that's like very very special that we were lucky to have, as immigrants coming to US, to have like a welcome home.
oh, for sure. And there's so many questions. Like, really curious about your relationship with your parents. Um, I'm sure y'all still talk a lot, but obviously y'all aren't like physically together. Wondering like, yeah, how much do y'all keep in contact with one another with your y'all's parents, and if y'all ever see each other in person, they like take a trip down or you go over there.
So every summer, my mom would like fly over here to visit us, but not this summer because of the pandemic. So she has been going crazy because she's worried about us over here. But one thing about my mom is like she cares for us very much. So a lot of people find this weird, but like she calls it like every single night. And if sometimes she would like be too busy and she couldn't call us, and like we you know don't call her back, she'd be like, why didn't you call me? Like I was expecting your call. So she's like, well, I understand for her because she knows she has 3 children that she can't see every day that is growing up, like across the ocean. So it's pretty difficult for her, and even like like the decision to leave all 3 of us here in the U.S. is pretty hard for her. So I would imagine to be pretty emotional and like ask a mom to miss us
Hmm.
every day. So we try to call her, be responsible, and she tries to us every day. So we have a pretty, close relationship. Um, my mom is very supportive of everything that we do, even though like um, she maybe not like in full support of it, but she doesn't show it in a way that would like discourage us. She just give her
Hmm.
advice and everything. So I would say our relationship with our mom is pretty solid. With my dad is currently on another job in another country, so our family don't even stay together. But anyways, with our dad, it's the same with my mom, but it's like less intense, because he is like it's something weird about like being a man in an Asian culture, like being a dad in an Asian culture. For me, um, at least. So we don't keep as close contact with each other, but we still, check in um every week instead of every day. I would say, at least for me. Well, it's different because I would call I would stay in touch with my mom every single day, and my sister would stay in touch with my dad every single day. So it's like it's different for us. So like I would like call my mom
Hmm.
more, and my sister would call my dad more. And so yeah.
Yeah, wow, that's an interesting dynamic. like the different gender uh, child parent relation. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Interesting. So you mentioned about like a little bit about being a man, like or like the idea of being a man and like what the Asian man is like via your dad. Um, I wonder like how your concept. Maybe this is like a really hard question, but try your best. But how your concept of like being a man has been formed since you are living away from your parents. You've lived with your parents through like age 15, 16, but like I know the high school years are not the easiest, most fun times, and having that male figure can be quite important. But yeah,
So sorry, what is the question? Like, can you like rephrase
so
it?
yeah,
Sorry.
okay. Well, basically, what is your concept of being a male figure, like for yourself?
Oh,
Like,
okay.
what was being a man like, and who influenced that in you?
That's a very hard question, like you say.
Yeah.
So okay, so I guess I'm just gonna start somewhere, and hopefully I'll find the answer by the end of the
Yeah,
talk.
that's okay.
Um, so for me, well, at least so for me, I talked to my mom, right, through many things, and she has this idea of what being a man is like, and she's trying to like instill it in me. A man, like he has to be like, she talks about this all the time too. She say that a man, you're supposed to be independent. You got to be strong. You got to be able to take care of yourself and the others that is surrounding you. You got to be able to communicate with, so this is her word, you got to be able to communicate with everyone, and you got to be able to go out and just hang with every type of people, just because like you need to be like socialized, and you need
Hmm.
to be not like dominant, but like you need to be assertive, and like stand your own ground and have your own belief. So that's what my mom always like tells me, no, through like no matter what I'm going through or whatever. She's like, hey, you're a man, this is what you got to be, right?
Hmm.
So that's from my mom. So this idea of a strong male figure, right? But what I learned from my dad is very like interesting, because my dad, he's strong, but he also has like a soft spot. So like he shows me that like, a man can also have emotions, and like they can show emotions, and they can express their ideas, and and some people say being weak sometimes, but I would just say, like, because I mean, a man is human, you know, so
Hmm.
everyone got to show their weak points sometimes. So, yeah. And then there's like this idea of like the man that I have seen in my life. Like, I mean, men, just people I've seen in my life, are like how they should be. And like, for me, like I pick point, what is good about them, and add it to my like what is to be a man list. Like courageous. Maybe that's one example. Um, I'm trying to think of another one. Um, Discipline. You gotta be able to you know follow through with your commitment and everything. So that's an
Hmm.
example of, to me, just to be a man. Uh, but I mean, like, that's also applied to being a woman. Like, I don't know, but like
Hmm.
that's just like
Yeah.
from my personal experience, like what people are showing or telling me what is it to be a man.
Yeah. Cool. I know I kind of threw that question on you,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, that was a really cool answer. I was like you kind of touched on at the end there, like I feel that a lot of these qualities, at least in Western society, are things that people think both genders, both sexes can have. And it's something that's like promoted. Um, and then like maybe my perception of things like with like Eastern cultures, it's like a lot more profoundly pushed in men, but like women could do it too, but it's like uh, not as a high priority, I guess. Because I think for me, like it was interesting hearing uh, those things from your dad about like the softer spot. Because for me, like growing up here in the states, my dad never ever said that. Yeah, I don't know too much about his story. Well, I do know like he basically grew up without a father, um, but he has a very like traditional machismo, like manly man uh, view of what a man should be. So like crying is weakness for him. Yeah, um, and we talk about it a little bit, but like it feels weird. I don't know talking to him sometimes about these things because it just sometimes feels like those ideas just go over his head. Um, but yeah, he, yeah.
I kind of understand where you're coming through. Like, it's easier to share things with my mom for some reason than to share it with my dad, at least for me.
Mm.
And it's like the opposite with my sister. Like, she can share things with my dad, but it's harder for her to share things with my mom. So I don't know why I say my, but like our mom is our dad.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, there, yeah, that's yeah. Um,
Huh. That's interesting.
yeah, I feel
Yeah, I
like
feel
there's.
like. Mm.
Sorry, you
Go,
were
go.
saying?
Oh, okay. I was just gonna make a little comment about again
Okay,
the gender thing. It's just like
me too. I was gonna say something
oh.
about it too. Okay, but you go first, and then I'll go.
It's just well, I don't know your sister, but I was like wondering if there was like this, um, I guess like maybe I don't want to come off as like antagonistic,
No,
but
no, no.
like
Just throw it out there.
yeah, yeah, like wondering if you exude more, I guess, fe- female typical like emotives, and then like your sister would exude more like male typical things, where she's like I don't know, like more not just assertive, but like wanting her way in things. Um, I don't know how those dynamics really, but like it's a pretty big assumption to make. Because like I think about like in the Bible with like Jacob and Esau, like Jacob was kind of like the mama's boy. He just like he would do cooking and like the female stuff, right?
Hmm.
And Esau would be like the hunter, I think.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I was just curious about the dynamics between your parents and then you and your sister. I don't know if that played a part, if that made sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. But there's like this thing like in at least in like the Vietnamese culture, I would say, where it's like m- the moms likes to like prefer like not like the son will be like the mom's favorite child, and then the daughters will be the dad's favorite child. So it's like that, and I feel like in
Oh,
Vietnamese culture, for some reason, is really weird. Um, I don't know if it's the same in the Western culture because I haven't talked to anyone about that, that topic or subject yet. But yeah,
wow.
and yeah, that was something that I was just gonna say, and
Oh,
one thing you were right about your assumption is my sister is she's very bossy, so she wants things her way. Yeah, but yeah, so
I
it's pretty
see.
interesting to see. But when I think about it, it just really comes down to maybe it's just like I just find that it's easier to talk to my mom for some reason, and she's just like to talk to my dad, to our dad for some reason. So
Hmm.
um, yeah, I
Okay.
don't.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I didn't know that about, I guess, the Vietnamese parent-child relations. Because,
Well,
like, or I don't know. Thinking of, from, like, my own ethnic heritage, was like, there's so much, like, talk about, it's like, having the boy, and, like, the females are kind of almost uh, a hindrance, or, like, uh, financial burden, because you have to give a dowry when they marry off. um, and like I learned a lot more about that as I talked with my own mom about like her childhood, and growing up with the constant sexism put on her.
mhm.
But yeah, what were you gonna say something?
No, well, not really. But now, since we talk about that subject, you just brought up about you know, the concept of having a son and like a daughter. I think in the Vietnamese culture is also like they have something similar to that. So like, um, you know, a couple would like they would want to have a son, so they can
Mm-hmm.
pass on, their lines, their lineage and everything. Um, so like a son is like, especially like the firstborn son, he is expected to, be the support of the family. He is support. He's expected to like, be the column. So I don't know how to say it, but it's like
Mm.
so.
Yeah.
Like so we have it, well, in our culture, we worship our ancestor and everything, right? So like, the firstborn son is supposed to do all those things, come up on the important dates and everything, like the memorial dates, and organize everything to have everything, so he's like the most important figure in the family as the parents grow old, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like it's it comes to a point where, like, let's say if you have a firstborn daughter and then you have a son, the son is looked up more than the firstborn daughter, even though she was born first, right? That was the
Mm.
extent of it, which is my situation in my family.
Right.
My sister, she's older than me, and I'm the second born, right? But my mom, she still expect much more from me than my sister, because I'm her firstborn son, like, the son. Um, so yeah, and also like in the Vietnamese culture, it's like when you have a son, is like you have, you know a future provision. You have someone to provide for you for in the future.
Right.
But when
Right.
you have a daughter, she's just going to be marry off to some guy and go lives with him and his parents. So I feel like in the culture they kind of see is like, like you say, like, you don't get anything from the girl, but from the boy you might get something back in the future, and they expect more
Mm-hmm.
from the boys. So that's at least like for the large part of me living in Vietnam, that's what I see. you know the girl are like more, they're like like being able to find a guy to marry to is like more important to a girls in Vietnam than a man, right? So, and for some reason, like the older generation in like Vietnam, they have a very strong emphasis on getting married and starting a family. And like, like recently, like, like, let's, for example, like for my parents, like generation, we don't stress like they don't stress it as much anymore. They kind of focus on like, you gotta build your career first. You gotta, make sure you're financially stable, blah blah
Mm.
blah. This, but like for my like grandparents, like Gen generation, right? If you don't get married by 20, they'll be like, why are you not finding anyone, right? and like I'm here at 20 and we're still in college, right? So it's kind of like that. And so yeah, like if you have a son, he has to be able to find a girl who can cooks and stay at home being a mom. Like that was the important part. Yeah, I know, like that's the part of the culture that's like that I don't agree with, right? And like if you are a girl, then you gotta look pretty enough so you can find a guy who has a stable job and be with him. So that's like a big part of the older culture. I think Vietnam has been, going in the progressive direction as like they as the globalization occurs and like we like absorbing more Western ideas and we like more pretty like lenient on that now.
Hmm,
So I think it's pretty interesting. Yeah.
interesting. Well, all right. I think that's a great segue between this the tension between East and West because you're stuck in the middle of that. You came like fourth, fifth grade to the America
No, I came in
and
seventh grade actually.
seventh grade.
Yeah, my
Oh,
little brothers came in
okay.
fourth grade, which is very early for him.
Gotcha. Oh, okay. Whoops. Bad math. Okay. Um, and y'all obviously chose to stay here, at least for your education, um, citing like the schools and stuff. Um, and we've talked a little bit about this like before, but like you seeing yourself as more like Asian than like American in that Asian American spectrum. Um, but yeah, that's a lot to all take in. So it'll take you like a little bit of time, but like um, yeah, I guess we'll start with the spectrum. Like I guess I kind of said it, but where are you on this Asian American spectrum and like why?
Yeah, so it's pretty interesting. So since we're talking about like a spectrum, so my sibling is a very good example of like that. So my little brother came in like fourth grade. That was very young age, where he like still like developing ideas and concept, the perception of the world. I came in seventh grade, which is like adolescent age, and my sister she came when she finished high school already. She's going to attend college. So just based on that, when you look at us, um, my brother is very westernized. Like he is like he acts like what an American child would behave. My sister is, on the other hand, she still holds strong to her Vietnamese root and her culture very much. Like for example, like if you go on YouTube, my sisters only watch like Vietnamese shows and comedians and all these things, and my brothers only watch Americans like YouTube channel, like gaming and all this stuff, right? And here I am stuck in the middle. Um, I like I enjoy both culture. Like I listen to Vietnamese music. I watch Vietnamese shows sometimes, and I also do this thing on like on the American side. So like I'm kind of stuck in the middle of the spectrum. Um, like holding on to both Western and Eastern culture. So I would say like I have like an almost perfect mix. But when it comes to like making like perception or like the decision, I tend to, even though I live in America, like I tend to appeal to my Asian side a little bit more because I guess that's where I came from. Like that's my root, you know. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's so interesting to hear about your siblings. Like that's a pretty a perfect way to show it. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about your experiences here. Like, what were some culture shocks, or maybe things you just not so much shocked, but you like thought was cool?
I remember when I first came in like seventh grade, I attended a public school. The first thing like I was really shocked about is like how easy the math is like here is, because for some reason we did some really hard stuff in Vietnam at a young age, like in sixth grade or something. But when we came over, it was super easy, and like it gives me like, so spending a little more time, and I feel like kids in school, by school I mean like high school and middle school, they don't try as hard as we like say like the Vietnamese like or the Asian try in school for some reason. So that was like wow, because like back then in Vietnam when where I go to school, like everyone works really hard and everyone like they work overtime, because like over there like education is very very
Mm.
valued. So for me when I came over and see everyone just like chillax and everyone like just not worry about school, well, most of them, I was like what is going on? And like and like of course like the like the stereotype like Asian being smart. Like so I learned about the stereotype. I'm like I'm not like I'm not being smart, just like I'm just working hard, right? So like it was very like interesting to see how like it was, right? But we also don't have this like stereotype like Asian being, I mean like Americans being lazy, because like we look to the Americans back then. So I'm like, so how does it go? And whenever I'm going into college, like I can see the difference. Like kids in college, they work so much harder now. So I guess it's just like at that age, like people just don't work hard or something, or they don't care. And I think another cultural shock for me was like um how many different type of people are here, right?
Mm.
Because in Vietnam, the population is mostly homogenous, just like only Vietnamese people there, right? So far as like so, well, because I remember when I was a little kid, I would go out to the street and like if I see like a white person or like like who's visiting the country, it was like, oh hey, hello hello, I'll be very excited to like talk to them in English, right? So it was different when I come over here and I see like all types of people come from every different place of the world. And yeah, it was pretty interesting to see. And well, to see on like how they interact with each other too was also very interesting, because in Vietnam you have the same type of people, the way that the interactors I see my whole life, right? But what happened when you see like a Middle Eastern man interacting with like a white person, like how do they relate to each other, right? That was something
Yeah.
that's very interesting to see. um I guess another thing that I was shocked by is like just like how organized everything is, I guess.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, because more like stores, and you got like big store Walmart, you got like
Mm.
Sam Clubs, Costco, and you got like all these like department store or something. Like it's just like it's really nice to see. You know, like there's like a system for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in Vietnam, it's kind of like a little more messy when like back when I was still there. Um, so
So,
yeah.
like, what are are there equivalents to those things? Like, maybe they're not as like big as like Walmart and like department stores, but like you still have areas to like shop and stuff. Or is it just like a marketplace? Is it?
Yeah, so in Vietnam, back then when I was in Vietnam, I don't really know about how is it now. Well, no, I do know, but like not a lot. So back whenever I was still in Vietnam, where we get our food is we go to like a marketplace, right? Basically like a farmer marketplace, and everyone is get foods there. Instead, in the U.S., you go to the supermarket like HEB or something to get food, or Kroger's or something like that, right? So that's like one thing
Mm-hmm.
that is different. Um, we have clothes like where we buy our clothes is like what you call here like a boutique shop, and you don't just go to the mall or like go to like let's say like Old Navy's or like Dillard's or something to get to get clothes. We have different boutique stores we would go to.
Mm.
Um, but for the recent year, I think when I came back last year to visit Vietnam, everything is like a little. It's like changing more, like adapting to the Western style more. Because now we have like supermarket and stuff. We have like a supermarket chain where you can buy fresh food and everything. Um, we got like big malls and everything too. Like everything is growing, but people, they still are living their old ways. They prefer going to the supermarket to pick like a fresh fish or something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Okay. And so, are you, or is your family from like the big cities in Vietnam, or is it like a more medium size?
We, we we live in the capital of Vietnam, which is Hanoi. So
Okay,
it is a big city. We live in this.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure, like, I guess, like, even in your lifetime, like, the there's been so much change socioeconomically, but I'm sure there's still like a lot of like rural parts of the country that I guess are still living in like that rural traditional.
Yeah, I can relate because like my grandparents from my mom's side actually still live in the rural country.
Oh,
So yeah, so whenever I get a chance to visit them, I can see like what life is like out there. So
yeah.
yeah, I know a little bit about that too. A little bit experience with that.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. You've covered a lot of different topics. Yeah. Yeah. Huh. That's interesting. So first was education. It's kind of a random question, but I was like, you were saying how in Vietnam, like everybody, all the students, pretty hardworking. Is there like a culture of like cram school or like additional school? Like I don't know. Maybe it's just I just watch too much anime, but
Uh, well, so whenever I say like all the students working hard in Vietnam, right?
uh-huh.
Is I feel like mostly is from the pressure the parents put on the kids, because like the parents they want the kids to be successful, right? And like successful to them means you get good grades so you can get into good school, and when you go to good school you can go to good jobs, and that's how you make money, right? So a lot of time the parent would like overvalue education. That sounds pretty bad to say, but sometimes they would put too much, like they put too much stress on the
Yeah,
education.
yeah.
So I remember my sister, she would have to go, like my mom, she spent so much money on find like tutoring like like tutor and like all these things for my sister. Like so she would like go to her everyday school, come home at 5 or like 4 or something and eat, and then go to like night school, and then like have like tutor come to our house so that they can like do teach us how fast way to do math or something like that. So it was very stressful to be like a student in Vietnam, and like that was one of the reasons why I didn't want to work to Vietnam, because like I feel like the education system over here, even though it is broken in some ways,
It's
but
definitely
still
broke.
is but still it's still better than the way that I was being taught in Vietnam. Because in
Oh,
Vietnam, for some reason, they think they just like they want to cram knowledge into you. You need to know all these information by the time you graduate high school or something like that. So
yeah.
yeah, so
That's
like talking, yeah, like my sister, she has like 5 different tutors, and my mom spent money on like on 5 different subjects or something, and just because it's important.
mm-hmm.
So yeah.
um, that's rough. I can't like failure is just like not an option.
It's
That's
I mean, like from now and then, you have some like progressive parents who be like, "Oh, it's okay. Like I love you regardless. So just take it
yeah.
easy. Go to art school if you want, right? Like that kind of stuff." No, like I'm like I said it as a joke, but
Yeah, yeah.
also it's like a serious thing. Like they want you to have a job, like a doctor and or like some type of like lawyer or something. And like even when, so for example, like what even when I told my mom that I'm going to become a civil engineer, she'd be like, why? Why you become like, I'm saying I'm an engineer, mom, and she'd be like, yeah, but that's not like a high paying job. Why you become a civil engineer? Because she look up the jobs, and I'm like, it's still like, even though you would think an engineer is like a very like in the US it is, it's like a high value, like a respected like profession. Like in my mind, my mom still be like, "Oh, so you just gonna go out to the construction site and like measure stuff?" I'm like, I mean, basically, yeah, but still, it's I'm an engineer. It takes time to become an engineer. She was like, like I feel like the focus of them is like, do you make money afterward or not,
Hmm.
right? And like she tried to say it in like in a least like discouraging way too. But like I can tell that she was like a little bit disappointed. Even though I'm becoming an engineer, it's a very hard like major to be majoring in
Yeah,
still. But yeah, um, yeah.
interesting. Like, never good enough. Um, oh shoot, what was I thinking about? Oh, yeah, that's the culture of, I guess, education and learning there is also so intriguing to me because well, I don't know like what the ranks of the countries in the world are, but I know like the United States is not great. It's like at best somewhere in the middle. I remember. I don't know where Vietnam is, but like uh, it feels like it would be higher than the United States. I don't know, but like if that's the cost to reach, I don't know, better places. I don't even know. Like why do we need to rank it? Um, then I don't know if I wanna have that. But it's I don't know.
Here's
It's a
like,
hard place. Yeah.
here's one thing that I can say about it though. Is like even though okay, so one thing that I have seen is like with the Vietnamese like education system, they cram so much into their student, right? But their student once they graduate, they don't know what to do with that information. Even
Hmm.
even though they have so much information, they like I can see that like the United States like kids like kids I don't know the student in the United States, you
Hmm.
know, even though like I don't want to like like talk bad on like the US like United States like education system, but like they know how to do things practically. So like that's one thing. For a lot of like I've seen a lot of like Vietnamese student learning so much, but they can't apply anything that they learn into their lives. And over here we got students who graduate school and they know what to do with their lives. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is like practicality is what I'm talking about here, right?
Hmm.
It's more practical in the United States for some like as
Okay.
the way that I see it. They can make things, they do things. So I would argue against like the Vietnamese edu- education system because they cram the student with so much information that the student know what to do with it, and it's kind of like confuse him or something. Because I remember
Yeah.
being like that. So yeah,
It's like having
street
I
knowledge
don't
and,
know.
and book knowledge.
Street. I don't know if this is like the best comparison. So it's like having more street smarts than book smarts. That's not. I don't know. Street smarts like how to live and survive, and just being a bookie academic. Huh. But yeah. Okay. And then like I think the other big thing that you talked about when we talked about culture shock was just race and the diversity here. Like you said, Vietnam is a highly homogenous country, as I'm pretty sure pretty much everywhere else except the United. Well, maybe England is pretty. I don't know, but even then. But yeah, most places like will have a relatively high homogenous ethnic groups, um, and like that definitely shapes, I think, both of our worldviews. Um, but yeah, I don't know how that has changed because you came here. It was still young, but like you're not super young. Um, yeah, how did your like concept of like race, multi ethnicity, diversity, whatever goes in that basket, like how did those ideas form and shape in you? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So before I came to the United States, like I know that there was such a thing as like racism, in the United States, like that exists in the United States, and like I can see like different people interacting with different people. Um, so I guess like when I first came here, I kind of like look out to see like, hey, like is there like racism left in this? Well, because like what I was taught, like in the books was that like it was racist and now it's not, right? So basically that was what I was taught in the book. It was racist, there was slavery, there was like segregation and everything, and now there's not anymore. Everyone is living happily, everyone is like together, and everyone is like, everyone is equal. That's basically what it is. That was I was taught in the book and read from the news and all these things. Um, well, my perception before I was in the United States. When I arrived here, I try to like see like what is going on, and like so to see like if that idea still hold true, still like so like I got the theory, theory stuff. Is it practical? Um, so well for me, as like an immigrant kid coming in in seventh grade, like kids can be really mean when they're in seventh grade for some reason. Um, I could like tell that like there was like not like severe extreme like discrimination, but there's still like a distinction as like, hey, you are different than us, you know coming from not only the white kids but also like from all kind of kids, like from like all kind of background, black kids, even Middle Eastern kids. So like there was definitely like this you know conscious idea of like we are different, like for some reason, for me at least, I feel that. And I feel like that was like being thrown toward me too. Um, but like for example, like all these like jokes that they make with each other, like jokes that even that I made with them too, right? About like stereotype and stuff. Because yeah, like even though they are just jokes, but they're like they're there's like truth behind those things. Like like there's like because we are like discriminating each other based on their race, so I quickly like recognize that racism is not dead in the United States. Like even though like it's not on like the surface level, it's still like hidden like deep down somewhere. And like if we don't be on the look for it, like if we're not aware of it, we might just like go over the top and like just miss it completely, right? So
Hmm.
sorry, like I was just like stammering there because like I was trying to like formulate my thoughts in my
You're
head,
good. You're good.
trying to like um make it into like a coherent sense at least. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. I don't. Yeah. That's cool. Or you come to see the states aren't what it says in the books. And uh, I don't know how it shapes how you think of things when you go back to Vietnam and stuff. Because again, like it is a mostly homogenous place. Like, do you see, I guess, racism there, or is it more like discrimination and like prejudices against maybe different uh, like minority groups of Vietnamese people?
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. So in Vietnam, if I remember correctly, there's like 54 groups of of people. So like we have the one big one, which like like most like mostly everyone belongs to, and the other 53 like group of people, um like indigenous people live in Vietnam
Hmm.
too. Um, So there's this idea of like this one group that's like mostly everyone belongs to is like superior to the all the 53, just because we are more civilized, basically, and we don't live in the mountains or in the like indigenous part, like um, but yeah, so that that was one thing. Another thing that's interesting is I remember going back to Vietnam in 2016, summer 2016, and I think there was that summer actually when the Black Lives Matter movement started, if I remember correctly, because I remember being in Vietnam and like watching the news, and there was like riots going on of the Black Lives Matter movement, right? And people in Vietnam would watch the news and they would see the story of all these like black people rioting and like destroying stuff, right? And they'd be like, why are they doing that? What is going on? And like, for at least for me, when I look at that, like I can tell them, hey, they're doing it because they're struggling with, something, like they are dealing with racism over there. Because, the people in Vietnam, they still think that, like, hey, racism is not, well, at least not now, as like they are more progressive now because, social media and everything. But back then, people would like, well, 2016, like, let's like my parents and my grandparents would like see this thing going on in the news and be like, that's like unlawful. Why are they breaking stuff and all of these things? But they don't understand the struggle like the black people have with racism in the United States, which still exists. It's still inherent in the United States. So it was really cool. Well, not cool, but like it was cool for me that I can understand the struggle and I can see the side story that they don't see, and I can explain it to them, like, oh, hey, they're not doing it because they want to break stuff and they want to break the law. They're doing it because they're allowed to let their voices be heard. They're allowed, to express their anguish and their, opinion, that they cry for justice. So that was something that I could like tell my parents and explain to them, like, that kind of stuff. And I could understand it too, So that was a bonus. But yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Actually. Okay, well, cool little cut there. Having some internet issues. Oh well. But yeah, it's been super fun, super interesting hearing about your story, Tony. There's still so much to get into it. Definitely want to get back into it again sometime. We haven't even talked about religion, and that's a really big part of your life. And like that whole interaction with your family and with that. But yeah, uh, that'll be that. Thanks for listening, everybody. Yeah. Okay. Now we just do a thumbnail thing. If you wanna pose with anything or like, I don't know,
You know
make a
what I'm gonna do?
face.
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm
What
gonna
do you
put
want?
on I'm gonna put on my hat so I can confuse people because in the thumbnail they see me with a hat.
Okay.
But then watching the video they don't see my hat. They were like, wait, they take it off at some point. So they would go through all the video to see when I take my hat. I never take off my hat because I never had it on in the first place.
Okay. Go for it.
Okay, give me 1 second. I'm back.
Okay. Okay.
Cool.
Cool. All right. If you're still here watching this, thanks again. Bye bye.